Welcome to Haunted Grove, the podcast that drags you into the darkest corners of the supernatural. Each episode delivers chilling short stories of vengeful spirits, haunted places, and things that should not exist. These are true encounters with the unknown, told to unsettle, disturb, and stay with you. Are you ready to face your fears? Then step into the grove and let the horror begin.
My name is Julia Hale. I'm 22 and in my last year of film school at New York University. This past October, my friends and I saw a flyer for a one-night-only pop-up movie screening at the old abandoned Starlight Drive-In, just over the border in New Jersey. They were showing a restored print of a forgotten 70s horror film. For a trio of cinephiles like me, my boyfriend Mark, and our friend Simon, it was the perfect pre-Halloween outing. We got there late, around 9:30, and the main feature was already ending. The crowd was thinning out, people packing up their lawn chairs and blankets. A cold front was moving in, and the atmosphere was more dreary than festive. We were disappointed. We'd missed the movie and the whole vibe. As the credits rolled on the giant, weather-beaten screen, the organizers began shutting down the portable speakers and dimming the lights. Just as we were turning to leave, a single flickering light ignited in the window of the drive-in's derelict projection booth. A moment later, an old man in a threadbare, wine-colored usher's uniform emerged from the booth's side door. He was tall and impossibly thin, with a pale, deeply wrinkled face. He carried a single, old-fashioned film canister. He walked over to us, moving with a stiff, formal gait. "The main feature is over," he said, his voice like dry leaves skittering across pavement. "But I have one final private screening, a film not seen by many, for the true connoisseurs." Mark and I were ready to go, eager to find a warm bar, but Simon, our resident horror fanatic, was captivated. "I have to see it," he said, his eyes gleaming. He insisted we go on without him, that he'd grab a ride-share back to the city later. We laughed at his obsessive need to see one more movie. He walked with the old man toward a dilapidated sedan in one of the back rows. "I'll see you guys back at the apartment in a couple of hours," he called out, waving. The old man opened the car door for him with a strange, formal bow. We watched them for a moment, then turned and left. 2 hours later, we were at our local bar, and we started to worry. By 1 a.m., after a dozen unanswered calls and texts, we took the train back to the Starlight. The place was empty, the gates chained shut. A deep, unnerving silence had fallen over the field. We called his name until our throats were raw. There was no sign of Simon, the old man, or the car. We called the police. We never saw Simon again. The police search was thorough. They found nothing. The organizers of the screening swore they had packed up and left right after the main feature. They employed no ushers, had no second projectionist, and were showing nothing but the one advertised film from a digital projector. The Starlight's old projection booth hadn't been powered up in 20 years. To the police, and to the world, the old man in the usher's uniform had never existed. 2 months later, something began to trouble me even more than Simon's disappearance. Mark's memory of that night had started to change. He would talk about it, and the details would be wrong. The strange usher faded from his recollection, replaced by a vague but insistent memory of Simon getting into a heated argument with a group of locals near the concession stand. In Mark's new version of the story, Simon had stormed off into the darkness, angry and alone. I tried to correct him, to remind him of the old man, the film canister, the promise of a private screening. But he would just look at me, confused, his brow furrowed with the effort of trying to recall something that was no longer there. His memory had rewritten itself into something more logical, more mundane, and infinitely less terrifying. And it left me utterly alone with the truth. On a cold night in late January, I went back. I took a cab to the Starlight and climbed the fence. The drive-in was a graveyard of speaker posts under a blanket of snow. The big screen stood against the night sky like a pale, blank tombstone. As I walked across the snow-covered field, my breath pluming in the frigid air, I saw it. A faint, flickering light in the projection booth window. My blood ran cold, but I couldn't turn back. I walked toward the booth. The same old man emerged, wearing the same uniform, carrying the same canister. He didn't seem surprised to see me. He enjoyed the film very much, the projectionist said, his voice unchanged. A quiet, attentive audience member. Perhaps you would care to see it as well. I found myself asking where Simon was. He is part of the collection now, the man said simply. But I can show you his story. Please, take a seat. The show is about to begin. He gestured toward the same dilapidated sedan in the back row. I don't remember walking to it. I don't remember opening the door. The next thing I knew, I was sitting in the cracked vinyl driver's seat, staring through the fogged-up windshield. My body was a prisoner of a fear so profound it felt like paralysis. The projector whirred to life. An image appeared on the giant screen. It wasn't a movie. It was a series of disconnected scenes, grainy and silent, like forgotten home movies from hell. A man weeping alone in a hospital room. A young woman staring at her reflection in a shattered mirror, her face a mask of despair. A car spinning out on an icy road. Each clip was a brief, intimate moment of human tragedy. And as I watched, I realized the other cars in the drive-in were no longer empty. In each one sat a pale, silent figure, their faces upturned, watching the screen with a terrible, patient stillness. The projectionist appeared beside my open window, his presence sudden and silent. "I am the Archivist," he whispered. "This place, it is not a theater, it is a library. I collect the final stories, the moments no one else sees, the quiet, lonely endings." He pointed to the screen. A new image appeared. It was Simon, walking down a dark city street. Two figures emerged from an alleyway. There was a brief, violent struggle. The scene cut to black. "He was not taken from here," the projectionist said. "His story simply ended as all stories do. I was merely there to collect the final reel. They are all here, the audience. Their stories are all that's left of them." He looked at me, his eyes ancient and sad. "Be careful, my dear," he said. "Your own story is not yet complete. Do not let it end in a place like this." The projector flickered and died. The screen went dark. In the sudden silence, I blinked, and the other cars were gone. The silent audience had vanished. I was alone in the derelict drive-in. I scrambled out of the car and ran, not stopping until the distant lights of the city were in view. The police found Simon's body a week later, in an alley downtown, just as the film had shown. The official story was a mugging gone wrong. Mark was relieved, in a strange way. It confirmed his version of the night, the argument, Simon leaving in anger. It was a story that made sense. I have never told him what I saw. I carry it alone. I am left with the memory of the archivist and his library of last moments. And sometimes, when I'm alone in the dark, I wonder what my final scene will look like, and if he'll be there, waiting patiently to add it to his collection.
And that's where we leave you for this journey into the unknown on Haunted Grove. Thank you for daring to listen to tonight's chilling tales. If these stories have lingered with you, please consider following us on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts, and leave a rating or review. It truly helps more sleepless souls find their way to the Grove. Join us again in 2 weeks for another descent into the darkness. Until then, keep the lights on and stay safe.